The history of Old St. Helens Church. Old St. Helens Church spans 1,000 years of history, from the Norman conquest up to the Victorian era. It is situated just off the ridge, an ancient trackway that was certainly in use during the Iron Age and is likely to be much earlier. The church is known as St. Helens Church, or the first mention of Or is to be found in 1107. A Robert de Or is also mentioned in the reign of Richard I. The name itself may come from the Old English word Ora, meaning a flat-topped ridge which is the terrain right next to the church. Although we know that the original church was built in the late 11th, 12th century, the first written evidence for the church does not appear until 1291 in the Ecclesiastical Valuation of England and Wales. Until the coming of the railway in the 19th century, the parish of Or was mainly agricultural and the parish sparsely populated. The standing remains and phases of building development. The church has been added to and changed from its simple early Norman beginnings to its last times of use in 19th century. The structure and fabric of the building has been surveyed and the stages of development have been identified, which I will go over with you now. The original 11th century church was a low rectangular nave without a tower. All that exists from this time are the north and west walls of the nave. The west wall has been incorporated into the two circular windows, the arched central window which is edged in con stone, and in the distinct roofline of the early west front of the nave. A single light window in the north wall is of Saxo-Norman style and is clearly from the earliest building phase. A bell turret was added in the middle years of the 12th century shown in dark grey. This would have stood out prominently above the roof of the early west front, but shortly afterwards in the late 12th century it became incorporated into the wall of the new tower. The chancel was built around the 1300s. Of particular note is the decorated style east end window. And the founder's tomb. A narrow south aisle and chapel were also built at this time and subsequently a south porch. Later the aisle and chancel were demolished and a wider full-length side aisle was built under a pitched roof. When the popular evangelical preacher, the Reverend Fearon, became rector, nothing remains of the aisles except for some foundations. The old and dilapidated church was pulled down in 1869. The church tower was retained. Parts was used to build the new St. Helens Church just up the road. Now, let's take a closer look at some of the things we have looked over. Two circular and one arched window once in the west front wall, now part of the east wall of the tower. A single light window in the north wall is of a Saxo-Norman design, and probably of the 11th century. The shadows of the mid-12th century, arched bell turret and opening can still be seen today, incorporated into the east wall of the tower. The arched head and fragmentary splayed internal jambs of a two-light inserted late medieval window. The window is now replaced and cut by a 19th century window which is set at a slightly lower level offset to the west. The steelwork dates from 2012 repairs and replaces a decayed timber lintel. The canopied tomb is of the de Or family, probably that of the builder of the chancel, with which it is contemporary. A commemorative brass would probably have lain on top of the tomb chest, but the Sussex marble slab which housed it has been smashed, leaving only slight remains visible at the edges. The decorated style window dates from about the 1300s. Now let's take a look at some of the archaeology finds from this ancient church. A number of skeletons were uncovered during the dig, including this complete skeleton in the nave. Others were uncovered both under and near the foundations of the south wall, including that sadly of a newborn child. The design